Yo, what up guys, it's Flark, and welcome to another one of my 10.1 PvP starter guides, getting you in to the new season and ready for action. This one is for Demon Hunter. In these guides, I pretty much go over gearing and talents and builds and everything I can possibly give you to make your character as efficient and powerful as possible to push rating as quickly as you can in the new season. Last season, I'm pretty sure I got 25 on DH in about 100 rounds. So very, very doable. I wasn't trying to push it just effectively for completionist sake, trying to get 2400 and beyond on as many specs and classes as I possibly could. So I can tell you for a fact, if Solo Shuffle is anything like it was last season, that you are going to have a hell of a time pushing rating as Demon Hunter. It's got some recent damage buffs. It's very impactful, very powerful, and still has a lot of incredible utility and damage that still put you in the winner's seat in a lot of these games. So let's get right into it, okay? No babbling this time. Let's go right into gearing. Pull this up. If you have watched my first two starter guides for Warrior, you know exactly what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyway because people probably haven't watched those first two guides yet, and they want to play Demon Hunter, not Warrior. So what I'm about to say is crit is very bad. Crit is nerfed to 150% damage and healing instead of 175, which is what it was last patch, in the 200% that it is in PvE, of course, right? In PvE, crit makes you do double damage. In PvP, now it makes you only do 1.5 times more damage. And when you nerf an effectiveness of a stat by half, well, that makes it a lot worse, right? So what do you do when certain specs and certain classes get more benefit from crit than others? Maybe they have a different type of interaction. And Demon Hunter is actually one of those classes because it had a talent and a talent line that you could go down that gave you more crit damage based on how much your crit rating had. And of course, that made the stat incredible, especially when combined with Mastery. You had some of the most output that you could do in the game in early Dragonflight Season 1, so much so that they had to nerf it multiple times. That build probably still exists, but I'm not going to give it to you. I'm going to give you the build that I'm running that has a ton of haste and mastery, so it's very smooth, very sustain heavy, constant pressure, good survivability, and I'm going to give you that build. All the haste that you put into this build and the haste modifier you get from I-Beam, spoiler alert, gives you a ton of the Necro procs, which still does a great amount of healing since it's percentage health based, and we have a massive amount of stamina this season. So I'm going to give you that build. I'm going to give it to you telling you wholeheartedly that there are other builds to run that I'm not going to give you because, like I said, these builds are supposed to be what I believe is the easiest way to get rating in this game. I don't play Demon Hunter, I don't main Demon Hunter, and yet I got to 2,500 in 100 rounds. You guys don't have a lot of time to play, right? You guys can't sit here and play 14 hours a day like some of us, right? That's true? Okay, then my build is going to help you have a very efficient, very easy to play, very smooth rotation build that will get you. If I can do it, I'm 30 years old. If I can get to 2,500 and 100 rounds late in the season, then you can absolutely too, because I'm dumb and also old. So here's how we're going to build it. We're going to build it haste and mastery, no crit at all. That is exactly what we're going to do. And the way to do that is so simple. Every piece of PvP gear has an option. Crit, haste, or crit mastery, right? Or haste mastery. All you have to do is choose the one that's not crit every single time. And if you choose between haste and mastery, choose mastery every single time. Why? Because you have more than enough haste from some modifiers in your talents, and Insignia gives you a ton of haste, which means you have more than enough haste. And mastery is even better because of any means necessary. This is unignorable. Mastery is your best stat. So what you do, you have verse on every PvP piece. You have a ton of haste from Insignia and the choices that don't have mastery. So you just get as much mastery as possible. How do you do that? Mastery enchants. Mastery everywhere you can get it. Mastery. 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 That one had haste on it. My vault was so bad, by the way. Mastery. Mastery. Should put in the mastery gems. Mastery main stat haste offset. I just grabbed this necklace for this video and put the gems slots in it. But yeah, mastery main stat, haste offset gems. Mastery here as well, right? You can get as much mastery as you possibly can. Everything else will have haste on it. Nothing will have crit. And that's going to perfectly synergize with the build that I will give you. Again, there are other builds, but do not run this stat with anything other than my build, because otherwise you're probably missing crit that you need for the crit portion, which is down the left side here, right? So if you're going to run my build and you feel like, oh yeah, he is old and dumb. He probably, if he can get 2,500, I can get 2,500. So I'll just run this one. Run my build. Make sure you're running these stats. Mastery and haste. Okay, great. So now the tier set, because we got to talk about that. Here's, let me show you a secret. Pull up your adventure journal. Adventure journal. Go to this drop-down menu. Go to Shadowlands. Is that not the weirdest thing you've ever heard of? Yeah, but trust me. Then you have this open up. It says loot. Click it. Now, item sets. Wow, isn't that weird? Now you can actually see the secondary stats on your tier set. That's how you had to do it. It's in-game anyway. You can do it online, but in-game, if you want to see it, this makes a really good way of doing that. Now you can see some things. Shoulders, haste mastery, perfect. Chest, mastery main stat. Oh, perfect. Yes. Legs, haste main stat versus off stat, perfect. And then finally, you need to choose between either crit verse or crit haste. Because your helmet has mastery on it, I absolutely choose the gloves, and it's less stats that you're sacrificing because gloves has less stats than helmet. So that means for your tier set, you grab shoulder, haste mastery, beautiful. Chest, haste mastery, beautiful. Gloves, not so beautiful, but you need the fourth piece because the fourth set is still free damage, and of course you're going to do it. And then legs, haste first, beautiful. Shoulders, chest, hands, legs. That's your 4 set. Boom. Then you can keep your versatility mastery helmet, which you will get a conquest version of, and then you have tons of mastery, tons of haste, very little crit, and a 4 set bonus, which increases your I-beam damage, which we are both about to love because I-beam always crits, and you don't have any crit, so it's like benefit there, right? You get all the crit without having to get any of the crit rating, and we actually benefit even further because we are running a build ahead of the game. We're ahead of the curve because ours has a lot of I-beam damage baked into it. Cool. So that's how you gear your character. It's very doable. I'm not going to go over every enchant that you get the speed ones. They've been in the game for 5 months now. I think you know about them. And if you don't, dang it. Now we look at the talent build. So might look very unique to anything you've seen. It is a combination of the 10.1 buffs, the stat changes, and the 4 set that caused me to create this build. And it's already, like I said, I started it last season, and that was before all of these buffs, and it was still 100 rounds to 25. That means this build is going to be better across the board in every way. But it's going to look a little weird if you haven't seen anything like this yet. I don't know what people have released. I honestly don't know. I'm not an intricate member of the DH community, but very strong. So, early talents are just required. You get First Blood, it's massive damage. You get Demon's Blades, this is so important. It just pretty much makes your auto attacks proc damage, but more importantly, proc Fury and proc resets on Fellblade, which is all proc, proc, proc. And with all the haste that you have, this is going to be happening much more often, which is part of the fluidity that I talked about, by the way. Having haste, especially with the talents down here, which we'll talk about in a second, just gives you fluidity, smoothness of your rotation, so you have more resource generation, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Fell Eruption, massive utility button. All of these early talents on the right side are just huge Blade Dance damage, which is an integral part of your rotation. You press it effectively on cooldown. More Blade Dance damage. Trail of Ruin adds damage to Blade Dance. Your Throwing Glaive package is going to give you bloodletting value, soulrend. I call it bloodletting because of a talent in Legion. I think if any Legion boys know what I'm talking about. But now it's called soulrend. Throw Glaive does a ton of dot damage over time, and you can just buff this with every Throw Glaive modifier. So you get one from Accelerated Blade, which is actually just buffed, and another one from Furious Throws, where you throw 2 glaives at here. Anyway, now ammo damage turns into every type of elemental damage you could possibly get is going to be valuable because any means necessary turns it into chaos damage, which is your mastery, which you have a ton of because I told you to get tons of mastery. So that's from the ammo damage, Burning Wound, Growing Inferno. The duration here in Fellfire Heart. All the throw glaive damage becomes chaos damage. Fodder of the Flame, chaos damage. I-beam is chaos damage. Chaotic Transformation is just a reset on your major cooldowns. So it's just a no-brainer. This is your Mortal Strike, which you can... it's only 25% in PvP, not 50%. That would be a perma-sharp, and oh my god. But yeah, you can drop this for one other talent. Probably something up here, right? Because it has to be. But you're probably, like Chaos Strike, improved Chaos Strike is probably easy, especially with all the Chaos Strike buffs that Demon Hunter's been getting for PvE recently. You can only drop this when there's already a Mortal Strike effect on your team. But you can remember to do that and you get 10% more Chaos Strike damage for free. That's kind of nice. But also Mortal Dance is an AoE Mortal Strike, so you'd really have to have like Fury Warrior can apply AoE Mortal Strike, Warrior can apply AoE Mortal Strike. Otherwise, you pretty much keep this in every situation, right? It's just a little niche thing. I don't think it would ever really apply very often. And if you want to just keep this in for ease sake, just keep it in all the time because it's an AoE Mortal Strike. That's fantastic. But then this is where things get different. We get all the I-Beam package. I-Beam damage and duration. This makes I-Beam do a ton of damage and start up a go with full fury. That's pretty cool. I-Beam dealing more critical strikes is what I talked about. I-Beam damage just is 50% more effectively from this. That's all that means. I-Beam does 50% more damage. This could be rewritten too. I-Beam giving you haste is fantastic because it's a great stat. And then I-Beam does another 30% increased damage because of isolated prey. So if you're hitting it single target, which you absolutely can, you can just aim it on single target and now does even 30% more damage. And you stack all of those modifiers I just said with the modifier here. Damage of your next I-Beam is increased by 15%, stacking 5 times. And all of a sudden, those things hit insanely hard. It's already my second damage. Well, that would make it my first by far. And yeah, that's pretty crazy. Coupled with all the buffs from 10.1, and I-Beam just hits really hard. Those would be, I mean, 12, 15, I guess 15k with full gear in the 4 set, maybe 16k ticks. And you know how fast it hits, right? It goes, it's like a laser beam, right? So that's the new stuff. Then you go down here, you get Inner Demon, which was just buffed. So every time you go into demon form, you fire off chaos damage. It's cleave, and it was just buffed by a lot. And it's chaos damage, so it scales with your mastery. So that's just crazy. And then you get the ones that I don't think are played very often, but I adore them. And they are Cycle of Hatred and Shattered Destiny. And this increases your meta, which is, it's a haste buff. It makes all your abilities stronger. You know what meta does, right? So this is just huge. But then you have this reducing your I-Beam cooldown, which I-Beam does a ton of damage, generates Fury, and gets you into demon form, which you can then extend with Shattered Destiny. So your sustain, both your sustain output, your sustain healing, your sustain pressure, your sustain cleave, every single thing is just amplified so much by this haste, mastery, Shattered Destiny setup. And then you still have Any Means Necessary, Fodder the Flame, which is massive damage buff and healing, soulrend. You have that entire mastery package. It's just, instead of combining the Essence Break, Know Your Enemy crit build with it, you're combining this sustain-focused haste build. And you know what's really good with the sustain-focused build? Soulrend, which is entirely sustained damage, right? So you would just constantly have I-Beam, constantly in meta. Meta gives you haste, by the way, and so does I-Beam. So now you constantly have huge haste for procs and for Fury Gen and for massive throw glaive uptime, huge Soulrend damage, huge MO damage, huge mastery, coupled with your burst option over here with Hunt and the Hunt dot. I mean, it's obscene. It's really, really crazy. So that's the build. And of course, the description will be linked below. I'm going to go over the left side real quick before we get into PvP talents. But it's very simple. You just get the utility and the damage increase. All of it's like so straightforward, but I'll show you anyway. Imprison, CC. Consume Magic is your purge. Fellblade is absolutely required. It's just like your mobility, damage generator. Demon Blades, like I said, resets this. It's too good. Meta cooldown reduction. This is your healing. Demonic is what allows you to go into demon form when you press I-Beam. Otherwise, that literally does not exist. So, of course, you run this. Some survivability. You have Throw Glaive, has 2 charges. 2 charges with 2 glaives per charge. So, duh. Just duh. Mastery increases your movement speed. You have so much mastery. Of course, you want the movement speed and mobility, which Demon Hunter has a ton of. Nova is an AoE stun. That's good. Now you can reduce the Fury cost of it and its cooldown to make it very, very accessible and efficient. Some more survivability stuff with maximum health and damage reduction. Big Dark, because I've found that a lot of solo shuffles go so fast that second darkness is not a thing. So you can actually just run super darkness and it makes you effectively immortal. Then you have another huge buff to I-Beam, making it heal you and do even more damage with Collective Anguish. And finally, the Hunt, which is just non-negotiable. It does huge damage. It turns into chaos damage with Any Means Necessary and applies a huge dot to them. That cleaves everybody. Wow. And that's the left side. Now, PvP talents. One of them, absolute no-brainer, Chaotic Imprint. This is just what gives you all of the Throwglaive synergies that make soulrend completely obscene. And it just makes all your other ability harder. So, wow. Reverse Magic. This is a fantastic utility button. Can get yourself out of roots, can get your teammates out of Poly, or Fear, or Hodge, or Trap. Yeah. You can even reverse an entire set of UAs and hopefully not die during Soul Rot, but you might. But yeah, Reverse Magic, amazing utility button. Now here's a funny one with all the stamina buffs. With all the stamina buffs, Rain from Above, once again, this thing has either been a complete meme or over-the-top overpowered. And Rain from Above right now, if you get all of the haste, and everybody has huge stamina, which they do, especially if you could get a priest to PI you, you actually could do 600k, 700, 800k damage. I've seen that's a gimmick though. That's all the PI modifiers and everything. But this thing just hits that hard. It's percentage health based and it scales off of haste and mastery. I think one of the only percentage health based things that does that, and it does hit that hard. So what you do is you run this for maximum output. You can drop Cover of Darkness for reverse or reverse for cover. And now you have a 1 minute cooldown. That gets you out of harm's way against melee, but also does obscene damage against anything. And you generally want to target the things with most health, like DKs and locks, who have bonus health in their toolkit. And then you're seeing numbers that are almost unhealable. So people have to line it or they die. And a lot of times in solo shuffle, well, they don't, because it's been such a meme for so long. They don't line it and then they die. And then they go, no, Fell-Lance is ridiculously overpowered. They're probably right, honestly, but that's the truth. And that, my friends, is Demon Hunter. That's the build. That's the gearing. That's everything. For rotational stuff, MO is your generator. You get a proc there. You throw a glaive at it, right? Boom. Doesn't do a million damage to the enemy, unfortunately. You get into I-beam. You press Death Sweep on cooldown. And you're kind of just spamming generator, spender, spender. You get another Blade Dance, then you can reset it all with Chaotic Transformation, another Blade Dance. You're going to get that second I-beam up, which is going to generate an enormous amount of Fury, right? So every time you I-beam, you get full Fury, ton of haste bonus. You hunt in there for fun, but it's really just Blade Dance, and then generator, spender, generator, spender, generator, spender. That's Annihilation and Fellblade. Annihilation, Fellblade. You can throw in Purges. You want to throw in Glaives. The only other thing you press is throw glaive. I wasn't pressing it there. You press it on cooldown, right? That's all you do. I just wanted to show you the generator spender combination. It is really a 4-button rotation. It is MO for Fury, I-beam for Fury and Demonic, Blade Dance on cooldown, then this is your generator spender. The other spender is throw glaive, which you should use the charge every single time it's up. So how that looks, again, I-beam, you would throw a glaive, you would Blade Dance because it's off cooldown, and then generator, when it comes up, if you ever get a proc, otherwise, spender. 2 or E. Look at this. E. Why is E always my cringe button, where it's just like so easy to press? E for throw glaive. Blew up a demon there. It's really just a 4-button rotation. Priority moves, again, throw glaive and Blade Dance. I-beam every time you can for a huge amount of Fury. Meta after I-beam to reset Blade Dance and I-beam, and then Blade, Fellblade with procs is your generator. Chaos Strike and E, throw glaive, is your spender. Hunt for huge damage. It's really helpful to wait until they have no defensives. It's also a massive mobility button, so you can just kind of like find a low health target with no defensives and hunt them from across the map, and they just die. If they don't die to the hunt, they die to the dot that it applies. And you're golden. That, my friends, is Demon Hunter. And everything you need to know to get you 2,500 in an hour once MMR fights again. Okay. Have a great rest of your season, and peace.